So if you look up under your 2022 Frontier, you'll notice that there are some very exposed vital components under here, most notably the engine oil pan. Yep, so that's the engine oil pan right there, and you can see how exposed it is. So even if you're not off-road, even if you're just out on the highway cruising, if some road debris comes under the truck, it's going to have a tendency to be sucked upward. That's just the way things seem to work. It's going to go under this front skid plate here, which does come from the factory on the SV model. But then as soon as it makes it past this front cross member, it's going to be sucked up. And that's the first thing it's going to encounter is your engine oil pan. And in my opinion, that's not good. I'm not really sure why they didn't cover this up on at least on the four-wheel drive models. But really all of these Frontiers should have come with that skid plate to protect the oil pan because it's in such a vulnerable position. Thankfully that is an easy thing to correct. So you can go to your dealership, or you can even order these online, and you can get the engine cover. That's what it's called by Nissan, is the engine cover. And this is $27, so it's a very small investment. And you can see the part number there. And then you can put this engine cover up under your truck, and you can protect yourself from having road debris or light off-road obstacles ruin your day. Now, if you have the Pro 4X version of the Frontier, you probably are going to have this skid plate already. I'm almost certain that the Pro 4X comes with not only the engine cover skid plate, but I think it also has skids for the fuel cell and maybe a couple of other things under the truck as well. That's one of the goodies you get with it off-road package, and I really wish I could have afforded to go with the off-road package, but you're talking a few thousand more dollars, and I just couldn't justify it. So I'm just going to add some of the components that I really want. This particular engine skid plate, I think, is the most important. When I looked up under the truck, there wasn't really a whole lot else that seemed very vulnerable to me. But that engine oil pan is just kind of scary, the way it's hanging down there, just waiting to get punctured or ripped off. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this on there, and that'll give me some serious peace of mind. So if you guys have an S model or an SV model of one of these Frontiers, you might want to consider buying this engine cover. Like I said, even if you don't go off-road and rock crawl and that kind of thing, I've seen damage. I've actually had damage happen myself out on the road. You know, just driving down the road, and you know, a piece of a tire from a tractor trailer truck or an animal will run out there, a raccoon or a possum or something. And if something gets, you know, popped up under your vehicle like that at high speed, it's going to do some damage. So like I said, this is just for peace of mind. Okay, so when you go to put this on, this is the orientation that you want it to be in, because you can see how the recess back there will go around your oil pan. And you do have holes already in the frame, so you don't have to drill those, they're already there. All you're going to need is a 14mm socket so that you can run the bolts into the pre-threaded holes up in the frame. And after that, you're pretty much good to go. All right, so it turns out that the bolts I ordered were not the right ones. So I had to go back to my toolbox and scrounge around and try to find some bolts that would actually work. So I also had to find some pretty large washers, because you can see the holes in the back of the skid plate are pretty large. So you're going to want some decently sized washers also. Bonus points if you've got some lock washers to use with those washers to keep the bolts from running themselves back out over time. But I couldn't find any of those, so I'm going to go ahead and put it on with these for now. And I may pop some lock washers in there later on. Although the existing skid plate in the front of the truck didn't have any lock washers. So this should, excuse me, this should be okay. And I think it's going to be pretty quick and easy from this point, because I did test these to make sure they thread in normally. So here we go. All right, so I finally got it done, and that's what it looks like. And you can see that you can still get to the oil pan drain bolt just fine. And if I keep the truck for very long, you know, I'm probably gonna, let's say I keep it after the lease, I'm probably gonna put a Fumoto valve in there to make oil changes really easy. But since I get 2 years of free service, I don't have to worry about that right now. But yeah, nice skid plate there, and you can see how it covers up almost all of the oil pan. This camera angle makes it look like several inches of this is exposed, but really it's not, which is kind of weird. To the naked eye, there's not very much of it exposed at all. So anyway, nice cheap mod. And if you guys want to do this, just look up those part numbers. You're going to have to source your own bolts, because the bolts, the part numbers I got for the bolts was not correct for the 22. But you can go to the hardware store and just pick up some of those and knock this project out in about 5 minutes.